Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to episode 2 of Decoding Wealth. I am your host, Daniel Duhart. I received a lot of great feedback around episode 1 as we decoded the Build Your Own Bank strategy. We have another great guest and topic for you today as we will be decoding investing in the stock market. Personally, I feel that in today's times, everyone should have a general understanding of the stock market. And so today what I want to do is just provide a brief overview or a foundation, if you will, and then we'll jump ahead and bring on our special guest, our subject matter expert for today's topic. So first, when you're looking at the stock market, it's a couple different things that I want to preference or talk about first. First, whether it be, what is the stock market? What are stocks? And then lastly, where do stocks come from? So when we're looking at what is the stock market is a public market that exists for issuing, buying, and selling stocks that are traded on a stock exchange. And then when we look at stocks, which are also called equities, are securities that give shareholders ownership interest in a company. So when you're purchasing stock, you do have ownership interest in the company that you are investing in. And then lastly, where does stocks come from? So public companies, they issue stocks to help fund their business. And then investors who think that that particular company is going to prosper in the future can simply buy stock or invest in that particular company. And then in return, that shareholder or investor would receive any dividends plus any appreciation in the price of those particular shares. Now, as you would with anything else, you will want to make sure that you're doing the proper research when you're looking to invest in the stock market. Right, so you want to make sure that you are trying to find good value when you're searching for stock or companies, especially when you're looking at a long-term strategy. So you want to make sure that you are looking at the strength and stability of that particular company, and then ultimately the stock's fundamentals. Because as I've referenced, you are becoming a part owner in that particular company, so that you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence with just doing a proper analysis or homework, if you will, when you're looking to purchase stock. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you understand the risk and the reward that's associated with your involvement in the stock market. The stock market, it allows you to purchase stock or own stakes for some of the largest companies in the world. And so it can be very lucrative for an individual that's investing in the stock market. And although historically speaking, the stock market has performed well, there's a certain level of understanding or maturity that you should have in understanding that there are potential losses that could be involved when investing in the stock market. So again, making sure that you understand both the risk and the reward, again, with your involvement in the stock market. So at this time, now that we have just a general understanding or a brief overview, if you will, of what is the stock market, I think this is a great time to bring on my special guest. So I want to introduce at this time Mr. Lewis Baker out of Washington, D.C.
Hey,
Lewis, how
how's
are you?
everybody doing? Well, thanks. Thanks for having me, Daniel. Love to talk about this stuff.
Great, great. Well, I know that this is your lane. I know that you are a subject matter expert when it comes to investing in the stock market. But before we dive into it and decode that topic, I want to pump the brakes for a minute and just give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and just give a little bit of background to the audience.
Again, I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, I think my background really goes to show that you really don't have to spend $100,000 to go get an MBA to become a good investor or to learn about how to properly plan and invest for your future. I came to Merrill Lynch right out of the Army. I was a West Point graduate, so I spent some time in the service, but right out of the Army without a business degree, I was hired by Merrill Lynch. I spent about 5 years there. I did very well. Was actually competitively hired over to Morgan Stanley. I was a vice president there for a couple of years. And since 2002, since 2003, I've had my own independent advisory practice where I take on clients, helping them with financial planning, wealth management, and a part of that is actually investing in the stock market. So it's been a good ride. I will definitely say there's a big difference between being an independent advisor and working at a large firm, and the ability for me to give customized advice without having the influence of someone else directing which way I should steer clients is certainly freeing. It's great for me and it's great for my clients.
Great, great. Well, I appreciate you giving us that introduction. I think we can go ahead and dive into the topic. As you know, we are decoding investing in the stock market. So it's a couple of different points, things that we'll talk about, and a couple of questions that I have for you. So starting off, Lewis, I'll start with, personally, why do you feel it's important as an individual to invest their hard-earned money into the stock market?
I mean, the question is really, can we afford not to invest money in the stock market? I mean, at the end of the day, if you take a look at historical rates of return as measured by something simple like an index like the S&P 500, which is a benchmark that aggregates the 500 largest companies in America. By those standards, historically, the S&P 500 has returned 10% per year. And that's just a ballpark figure that we use when it comes to financial planning. If you contrast that 10% rate of return with what you may be able to achieve in a savings account or with a CD, it's astronomical. Even if I gave you a 2% savings rate right now, if you looked at 2%, investing $1,000 today and $500 a month for the next 20 years, you'd end up with about $150,000, about $148,000. If you took that same 2%, you took that same $1,000 today, added $500 to it a month in the S&P 500 or stock index that was able to achieve that historical rate of return average around 10%, that sum of money would be not 148, but 368. So that's a couple $100,000 extra. So when you really think about, should I invest in stocks? I think you should be asking yourself, can I afford not to? And yes, there are other things besides savings accounts and stocks. There is real estate. Most of our folks, we love real estate. Why? Because it's tangible. You can go out and you can touch that building. You could see it. You could drive by it. You could see the rent coming in. Stocks may seem a little bit more abstract because you can't necessarily physically put your hands on it, but it doesn't mean that it's not a good idea to own them.
Have you seen more people now trying to do wills and estate planning now that we've gone through, still going through the COVID-19 phase of our lives?
I've seen a lot more people trying to do that, to have wills, to have healthcare directives, to even to the point of having living trust. For example, a will goes through probate, so it's public knowledge. The trusts are not public knowledge, so families are really starting to take a hard look at, what if I'm incapacitated?
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jermaine Dolly, Mr. Hello Dolly himself, and guess what? You're tuned in to Tea and Worship with my homies, Mignon and Corey. Keep it out, y'all.
Hey y'all, it's Candy West, and you're watching Tea and Worship with Mignon and Corey.
It's your boy James Fortune, and you are watching my favorite news show, Tea and Worship, with my sis Mignon and Corey.
Over the years, with dealing with different clients investing in the stock market, what are some of the drawbacks that you've seen, or why do you feel that people don't invest in the stock market?
I mean, that's an easy question. Most folks don't invest in the stock market because of one or two things: a lack of understanding, a clear access to information to let them know how it works, and two, just the fear of loss. And both of those things are real, right? If you're going to take your hard-earned money and put it into something, you want to know as much as you can about that something. But at some point in time, you actually can't learn everything about stocks, right? There's just too much information out there. Some of it good, some of it bad. So it could be difficult to plow through all the information necessary for you to make a good choice for yourself. But again, I have to go back and say to you that it's an opportunity that you can't afford to live without. You've got to go and do that homework, and you've got to find either someone that can help you with it or get smart on your own about how to use this tool that has been proven to create wealth over time. The other thing I would say is that, the first lesson that someone taught me at Merrill Lynch when I got started in this business was, he said to me, Lou, you know what? The best way to make stocks is, or the most sure way to make stocks is. I had no idea. He looked me in the face and he said, slowly. you know, yeah. We hear these stories of people buying a stock at 2 and going to 200, right? But the reason why you hear these stories is because they're so rare. No one's going to talk about their average 8% rate of return over a 20-year period of time, their average 20%, their average 10% rate of return over a 20-year period of time that helps them retire. We just work too hard to be able to put money somewhere to allow a bank to simply give us 1 or 2% on our money. We only have so much time in the day as a person to be able to create wealth for ourselves. Our money has to be working for us, right? So yes, there are periods of time when stocks do underperform, that stocks lose money. 2008, 2009 is not that long ago, right? When stocks were down 38, even 50% from their peak to their trough. 50% is a lot of money to give away, no question. It's not too long ago when we just saw the COVID dip in the market from the pandemic. Stocks were down 25, 30%, peak to trough. Those are real events, and those things happen. But at the end of the day, when you're investing for the long term, and you've got a plan to accommodate these things that do happen, these dips in value, these times where instead of being afraid to own stocks and want to sell them, that you really have some courage to go in there and realize that I should be buying stocks right now, right? If you can put some planning up front, we can be prepared for those situations and use this tool over the long term to create wealth.
All right. No, and I think you touched on a lot of great points, especially with, the drawbacks that people may have around like why they don't invest in the stock market. As you touched on, a lot of times it's just a lack of understanding or education around that. And so I think that for those that are looking to invest, they should definitely seek that education. And then also too, for the professionals like yourself, people have other jobs or other things that they're doing. They're not a subject matter expert in this particular lane. So finding someone that could help them get started, or overall help them with investing in the stock market, that's a really great point. And I think that, that's valuable for a lot of people to hear. And then also too, if I'm looking at it from whether I'm someone that's already investing in the stock market, or even if I'm someone that wants to begin investing in the stock market, what would be your advice to me in terms of, what makes stocks valuable, and how would I know what to invest in?
That's a great point that you make. You either got to get smart or you got to get help, right? I mean, one or the other.
Right.
Either you're going to do your own homework, you're going to do your own research, you're going to buy books, you're going to listen to podcasts, you're going to do all that stuff for yourself, or you need to get somebody to help you. I happen to be in one of those camps that I think it's better for you to get someone to help you. I mean, I'm biased in that regard, but I've been doing this for 27 years now. So I've seen a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes myself. So I know that there are certain ways to go about doing things to mitigate your risk. First one of those things is having a plan. And you say, well, how can I get started? When can I get started? The earlier you start, the better, right? The earlier you start recognizing that putting a little bit of my money in the market, putting it at risk in hopes of making a return over time is a great strategy. I'm not telling anyone that they should take their emergency reserve fund and put it in stocks, even though the odds are in their favor that they will make money over time. Chances are, when you need that money, when you need that emergency cash, is going to be the exact wrong time for you to go in the stock market and get it. If you think about this, research has been done that show if you hold stocks on average, when you look at the 1 year holding periods, that is over 1,000 different holding periods of 1 year. When you look at those holding periods, you're going to make money 3 out of the 4 periods, right? So every 3 out of 4 holding periods for 1 year, you're going to make money. If you look at the 5 year holding periods, you're going to make money 87% of the time. If you hold money in stocks for a 10-year holding period, you've made money 95% of the time. You've made money.
Wow.
You've come out positive. If you stretch that out one more phase to 20 years, there hasn't been a period in time in stocks where you've held 20 years and haven't had a positive rate of return. So you've got to have that long-term perspective about doing it. But that being said, finding and using some of the tools that are out there, sites like Fidelity Investments, fidelity.com, which is one of our custodians, schwab.com, another one of our custodians. There's a plenty of information from reputable sources without you going to, some unknown blog to find out some hot tip that can tell you how to get started over the long term, and start to average your money in a little bit by little bit. Get your reserve fund established and put your money in little bit by little bit. We call that dollar cost averaging. It's a great strategy to cut down on the risk.
Makes sense. And as you mentioned, longevity is key. I think even with the statistics that you provided, that proves that, the longer, and then even too, with starting as soon as possible is key. And that leads into the next question that I have for you. Due to the fact that with our audience, we do have a wide range of people in terms of ages, what age range do you think someone should start investing, whether that's old or young? And simply for those that are looking to begin, how would someone get started with investing in the stock market?
Sure. As soon as you can afford, to put some money in the stock market, you should be putting some money in the stock market. And again, I'm not telling you to take your family's cash reserve fund, but if you are a young person and you've got your first job, I don't care whether you're 16 or 18 or 21, you should be taking a piece of that money, whether it's $25 a month, $50 a month, $100 a month, and you should be putting some money in the stock market. Are you asking me if I did that since I was 18 years old? I wish I had been. Okay, so I know it's hard, but there was no one like me telling me to do it either. So I'm telling you right now, there's never a too early time for you to start putting money in stocks.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
As you are moving through your life cycle and you're putting more and more money in stocks and you are a builder, so to speak, there is going to come a point in time where the risk level that you can stand to take, you may not be able to take one of those 2008, 2009 dips down in the market. While you're young and you're putting money in and building, those dip downs are beautiful opportunities for you to buy shares at a discount. Just like you going into a clothing store and seeing something on sale. When you're buying high credit quality companies, you can do that. And I realize that it's hard to do that homework. Well, what's a high credit quality company? Well, one that's making money and continuing to make money and growing their earnings, how much money they're making year over year is a high credit quality company. But I understand that that might be hard to do. So Wall Street has kind of made it easy by inventing a product that's been wildly popular called a mutual fund. You're going to have to take some blind faith at something. You're not going to know it all right away. A good way to do something that will, number one, diversify you so you don't have all your eggs in one basket, is to simply buy a mutual fund, an index fund like the S&P 500, where you're investing in the largest 500 companies in America. Putting a little bit of money in one of these index funds, you can start to build an investment portfolio. As your needs change, as you have more specific goals that you're trying to meet, you can start to pick out different types of investments to reach those goals. You'll start to see and you'll start to learn that different investments have different characteristics from a volatility standpoint and even from a return standpoint. Do you want your return to look like this, or do you want your return to look like this? I guarantee you, if you want your return to look like this, in the midst, it's going to look like this. All right. So it's never too early. You do have to be cognizant of where you are in your life cycle about how much money you're going to commit to stocks, what types of stocks you're going to buy. You know, at the end of the day, these are representations of future cash flows of companies. Some companies may not be cash flow positive, but their potential, the potential that investors see in them to generate future cash flow is high. Those are what they call growth stocks. Those are new kind of companies versus value-oriented stocks, something like you're in Atlanta Gas and Light. Atlanta Gas and Light has been making money for a long time, but there's not going to be that many more customers coming to Atlanta that people are going to speculate that they're going to make, 2 and 3 times as much money year in and year out. That's a value stock. In fact, that for that value for holding it, they'll pay you some cash payments on a quarterly basis, and they call that a dividend. That's another benefit, not just growth of the share price, but dividends that they're paying out of their earnings is another reward you get for holding on to stock. Right. So there are places to get started. Reputable sites, Fidelity.com, Schwab.com are our custodians, and there's plenty of information there for you to find. Gave them a shameless commercial, right?
Well, I appreciate you, for sharing that information. A couple different things that we talked about. Appreciate all of the answers to those questions. In closing, for those that, whether you're already investing in the stock market or, again, if you're someone that's just now beginning to invest in the stock market, is there anything any advice that you would want to provide, or just any closing remarks around investing in the stock market for our audience?
I do. You got to plan first. I don't care whether your plan is, hey, I looked at my budget and I can take $100 a month to spare and put this together. If that's your plan, that's your plan. There's strategies that go along with that plan, right? You want to go from point A to point B. You feel like I want to be in stocks to do that. Okay, well, let's put that plan together so you can account for the things that don't go your way. So you can account for that volatility, right? You can account for that downdraft that is going to happen. I've seen in my short career, I've seen 2 time periods where the market's been cut in half, 50%, right? So I feel like we can make a plan for that. But before you start putting your hard-earned money away towards a goal, let's have a plan first. So financial planning before you invest is what I would suggest.
Got it. So having a plan is key. Got it. Got it.
Absolutely.
Well, again, Louis, man, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out to speak with me today and just provide some insight around investing in the stock market. As I've said before, I know that you are a subject matter expert in this area. I'm pretty sure that my audience is going to appreciate the information that you had to provide. I'm sure I will be talking with you soon, man, and I hope you enjoy your weekend. Thank you again.
Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all.
Got it. Well, everyone, as you can see, it's a lot to unpack and to learn from this particular episode as we really broke down talking about investing in the stock market. And we talked about a couple different things, whether it be, simply what is the stock market, what are stocks, where do stocks come from. Louis did a great job of, answering different questions around, what age range, how to get started, how to find the value in when you're picking stock or picking different companies that you want to invest in, the risks and reward of long-term versus opposed to, the losses that could be involved with it, or even simply how to get started. It's so many different things to unpack. So I would encourage you to go back, rewatch this episode, share it with a friend that you think this information would be beneficial for or to. And also, too, I'm sure that you all may have some comments or questions. So feel free to drop them in the comment section below. My social media outlets will be at the bottom of the screen, as well as an email or a QR code, for those that would like to schedule maybe a one-off conversation to have a deeper dialogue. I would love to hear from you and further this discussion. I'll leave you with a quote that I feel relates to this series of topics with decoding wealth. And it's a familiar quote, which is knowledge is power. And as I've said before, now I don't think that that's 100% true. Applied knowledge is power. It's all about what you do with the information that you have. So keep that in mind as we decode these various topics and strategies, and as you understand different ways to leverage them for your personal situation. Again, applied knowledge is key. Thank you again for tuning in and watching episode 2. Stay tuned for the details around episode 3. We will have another great topic, another great guest that will be on the show. Again, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you all have a great weekend.